Hey friends, if you love chunky, cozy blankets that work up fast and look amazing, you're gonna love today's project. I'm gonna show you how to crochet a chunky waffle stitch blanket step by step. The stitch looks textured and impressive, but I promise it's easier than it looks and it works up so fast. In today's tutorial, I'm breaking it down step by step so you can create this thick, cozy texture just using some simple stitches. So if you love fast projects and big squishy blankets, this one's for you. I just want to take a quick minute to go over the supplies that you're going to need to make this amazing blanket. We're going to need a tapestry needle. This is just to weave in a few ends. The only ones we're going to be weaving in, of course, is going to be our beginning tail, our final tail, and then where we've joined on new skeins of yarn. So it's not overwhelming. A pair of scissors, 8mm crochet hook. I'll explain why I'm using that particular size in just a moment. The yarn that I'm using is by Loops and Threads. This is their soft classic. I really do like this yarn, and this video is not sponsored by Loops and Threads. However, I wouldn't be opposed to having them sponsor one in the future because I really do like this yarn. It is 100% acrylic, but it's really affordable. The time that I purchased this yarn, it was on sale at Michael's for $2.79 a skein, but even their regular price at $3.99 a skein makes it really affordable, and it is 354 yards of yarn. So it is a medium worsted weight yarn. This one is in the color Sage, but there's tons of colors available, and I did stock up quite a bit while that was on sale. So for the blanket, I did use 2 strands and 2 skeins at once. So for the tutorial today, I'm actually going to do a white and the sage because it is what I have on hand. And we are going to be using 2 strands at once, treating this as 1 strand. What this is going to do is it's really going to show you, I think, on camera a little bit better the dimensions and texture of this stitch, and also just some little tips and tricks on using 2 strands at once. So that is all we're going to need. Let's get started. The waffle stitch is worked in multiples of 3 plus 1. For the full-size blanket that I did chain on 131. For the tutorial today, I'm just going to do a smaller swatch, and we'll start with a chain of 19. And I will explain those multiples, again, why we're using the 8mm hook, all of that good stuff as we go along here. First thing we are going to do for my beginners is start with a slip knot. And the way that I like to do it is just kind of take my 2 fingers over here, and I'm going to wrap this yarn around. Come back here and just push a little bit of that yarn through, and then hang on to that little loop that I've created. Then I'm going to take this hand out, hang on to the tails here, and pull this tight. Okay. Then what we can do is adjust the size of this loop by slipping this through our knot. And you can make that larger, you can make that smaller. That is, there's many different ways in how to do a slip knot. This is just the easiest and quickest way that I like to do it. But it's important that we can adjust it, because when we insert our hook, what we want to do is pull this a little bit snug, but not too snug. You want your yarn to be able to freely move and slide on your hook. You don't want it too loose either. So just about a little bit enough space, just like this. Okay. So for the swatch, I'm going to chain on a total of 19. And the way we start our chain is take your yarn, and again, these 2 strands, we're going to treat these as 1. I'm going to yarn over, which just means I'm going to bring that yarn towards me and over the hook. And then I like to hold my slip knot with my thumb and middle finger. And what's going to happen is that hook's going to grab that yarn and pull it right through that loop. So there's a chain. Okay, and then I'm going to yarn over again towards me and hook the yarn and pull it through. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and as it gets a little too long, I simply just take my thumb and forefinger and now, or middle finger, excuse me, and then I'm gonna move them up the chain, okay? So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So there's what that beginning chain is going to look like. For the blanket, we are going to work into these back bumps on the back leg of the chain. And what that's going to do is it's going to make the bottom of our blanket appear with this beautiful braid pattern. The pattern that I'm going to show you is going to work this beautiful border in as we go up, but that pattern is only going to appear on the left and right side of the blanket. The top and bottom of the blanket are going to appear just like this, and just a flat braid. I incorporated this in so that once we're done working our blanket up, we're done with the blanket. There's no need to go all the way around it with another border. So that will make it nice and fun. All right, our first row, we're simply going to work double crochets, and the double crochet stitch is the one that we're going to use throughout the entire pattern. And we're going to start working it. This loop right here on our hook does not count as a stitch ever, okay? So ignore that. So from the hook, we're going to count 1, 2, 3. And we're going to start working into this third bump on the back of our chain. And so what we'll do to work a double crochet is we're going to yarn over, and we're going to insert the hook into that third bump. And I've already got that yarn hooked on, and I'm going to pull up a loop. And now I've got 1, 2, 3 loops on my hook. I know it's 6 strands of yarn, but again, we're counting these two together as one. Okay? Then I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull that just through 2 of those loops. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull through the other 2. And we've just completed a double crochet. And we're going to yarn over. And I like to, when I'm working into these back bumps, sometimes it's a little tricky just for this row only. So I like to just kind of take the corner of my fingernail there and guide my hook through. It's a little bit easier. Hook my yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 of those loops, yarn over, pull through the other 2. And this is where it gets really repetitive and really easy. So we're just pulling through 2, pulling through the last 2. Yarn over and pull through 2, pull through the other 2. If you are a true beginner, don't worry about speed yet. That comes later. Just worry about getting the steps down so that you can keep repeating. And don't worry if that starts to curl a little bit. It won't when we're done. Now, just to show you here, each one of these double crochets creates this post, and we can kind of pull them apart just like this. This is really important because the raised posts here on the blanket, we'll show those again in a minute, we're going to need to work around these posts, okay? Our hook is going to be going towards the back. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but just so you know, we want to identify these nice tall posts that we're creating by using this double crochet. This is also what helps make the blanket work up so quickly. So I'm going to finish working these double crochets all the way down until I'm at the end of my row. And I should end up having a total of 16 double crochets. If you're working up the full-size blanket, you should end up having 128 double crochets by the time you finish your first row. Okay, when we get down to the end, I'm going to notice that there is 2 more. It gets a little bit confusing sometimes as a beginner because this bump right here contains that slip knot. So sometimes you think, oh, that's just the slip knot, it's not a stitch. It does count. We want to make sure that we go into that very last bump. That way you're staying on track with your stitch count, and you're also creating a nice even 90-degree angle corner of your blanket. Okay, so that is row 1. Now what we're going to do is chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and turn our work. Now I mentioned to you that I wanted to explain why I'm using an 8mm hook. The yarn itself suggests a 5.5mm, but we are doubling up the strands. I would probably go up to a 10mm if I wanted a little bit more drape, a little bit more space. But for this particular blanket, I really wanted to close up a lot of the holes and make this a little more thick and a little more dense. So that is why I chose the 8mm hook. All right, starting row 2, as I mentioned, these different posts. So the chain that we've created, this is counting as our first stitch, and it's lining up with the stitch on the bottom that we created on our very first row. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this next post right here, the second double crochet. And what we'll do is we're going to yarn over, and then I'm going to go in behind that post. Okay, and we're going to work what's called a front post double crochet. And I know it's always been confusing to me because we're going in from behind, but it's called a front post double crochet because we're going to work that double crochet on the front of this post. All right, so we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop just like we did on the row before. The only difference is we're pulling it behind that post. Okay, we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, I'm going to pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the other 2. And what you can see is that's just raising up that double crochet, and that's going to create the ridge of a waffle. For the next 2 stitches, and the easiest way for me to identify is I grab the raised post here and this one over here, and I can see I've got 2 posts in between. So I'm going to work a regular crochet into the top of both of those. And this is going to create the recessed portion of the waffle itself. So there are 2 regular double crochets. Now we need to create the other edge of this waffle. This is where it can get a little confusing for beginners. Because double crochets, they tend to drift over and offset just a little bit, tiniest bit, but it's really important to make sure that when you're working up these rows that you're looking at them in a straight line, just like this. That way we don't, with our next stitch, we don't accidentally come down here. We want to make sure that we're going to the next stitch because we're going to do a front post to create the other edge of this waffle. That way there's 2 double crochets in this little recessed portion, 2 here, and now we're going to create the other wall, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's just really important that you just kind of recognize that it is going to drift to the left a little bit, and that's okay. That's just what it does. But when you get ready to go to the next stitch, I also will look at the top. So I know that I've worked this stitch, okay? So I'm going to come here and just go down. And then I know that this is the post I need to work into. So I'll work my double front post double crochet right around there. And then we keep repeating that. So the next two, I'm going to work a regular double crochet. Like so. And then I'm going to come here and go down. I know this is the post that I need to work a front post double crochet on. And then I repeat again, 2 regular double crochet on the top. And then here's my next stitch. I want to make sure I go down around this post. And if I hold this up, if I go like this, it's a little hard to see. So I like to lift this up and look at the top so I can grab those next 2 top double crochet. And here's my next stitch. I'm going to go down. There's my post that I need. 2 top double crochet. Now we're at the end, and it looks like there's just 1 left, but there's not. This is that beginning 3 stitches of the chain that we skipped over. So I want to complete the other wall of my waffle by doing a front post double crochet. Here's my next stitch down. But what you don't want to do, you don't want to drop a loop. What you don't want to do is forget, because this does like to tuck behind. This is going to become this beautiful little scalloped border that we've got. And what we want to do is create a top double crochet in the very top of that. And it is pulled a little bit behind, and that's okay. We want to go back there and complete a double crochet. That way we have our border, 5 waffles, and our border. And as you can see, that starts to just scallop a little bit, and so does this side. And that's going to create this pretty pattern as we work up. If you love cozy projects and creative ideas like this one, and you're finding this tutorial helpful, please just take that quick moment to hit subscribe. If you hit the bell, it will notify you when I do bring out more tutorials that's going to give you more inspiration, more patterns, and more homey goodness. Now back to the tutorial. The bottom is this is our foundation chain. The bottom of our waffles isn't as pronounced yet, just because it's our first row. You're going to see some magic here in just a minute as we work up the next 2 to 3 rows. So we just finished row 2, and what we'll do, again, chain 3. Each and every row we're going to end and chain 3 and turn. You'll also want to notice that the back of the blanket does not look like the front. It just won't with this pattern. It's okay. It's still gorgeous. It still creates a fun texture, but you won't see the waffle on both sides. Okay, now what we want to do is what we see on this row, the way it looks, is what we want to do. What do I mean by that? So again, this chain counts as our first stitch as part of our border. This first double crochet is recessed down on this side. The other side, it was our front post. Okay, so don't forget that. I know it likes to hide a little bit down there. These look like front posts on this side, so we're going to do front post double crochets here and then regular double crochet in between. So it is the opposite of what we did on this side. Here we did front post, top, front post. Here we're going to do top, front post, top. Okay, and I'll just show you how that works up. So again, here's our first stitch, regular double crochet right in the top. And then these 2, first one is a front post, And second one is a front post. Now we're going to work right in the top. So you're just going to do exactly what it looks like. This looks like it's pushed up with a front post, so that's what I'm going to do, a front post. This next one is popped up, so it's a front post. This one is recessed back, so I'm going to work in the top. Again, front post, front post, and this one is a top. And this just continues all the way down, and you're going to notice just how repetitive all of this gets. Rows 2 and 3, the one we just completed and the one we're completing now, are the ones that you repeat for the rest of the entire blanket. And for the full-size blanket, I did work up 98 rows, and that created 49 full waffles. So remember, it takes 2 rows to make a waffle. So this is 1 waffle row, but it took 2 4 rows. So 98 individual rows. All right, we are at the other end, and so here is that border. So we want to go into the very top and work that double crochet, just to keep that cute border going. Once again, chain 3 and turn our work. So now you can really see how this ridge here, each and every waffle is going to have these ridges, but it's going to have a higher bottom one as we go forward. This just didn't because it was the beginning chain. So now when we work up the next row, you're really this pattern fully pop. So now again, we're going to do the same thing that we see. This is a front post, so we want to do a front post. We're just doing what we see from the row below. This was a top double crochet and a top double crochet. This is a front post. Two top double crochets. And here's another reason why I wanted to show you the 2 colors. As you can see, I've only grabbed 1 strand of the yarn. And if I would have completed my stitch, I would have just had this loop hanging in here, and it would eventually work its way out and look like it was sticking out of the blanket. So nothing to worry about, but just obviously be observant when you're working it up, just to make sure you're grabbing both strands of yarn when you're working these stitches. That's the only challenging part about doing the 2 strands at once. That, and if you let your skein sit on the floor or something, sometimes the yarn can get tangled if children or dogs or cats or anything else come by and try to play with it. Mine are safe up on the table today. So just keep working this down. 2 top double crochets and 1 front post. And so again, we've got those 2 at the end here, so I want to make sure I finish the edge of my waffle. And then I'm going to pull this around, and I'm going to go into the top of that chain to complete my border stitch. I'll chain 3. I'm going to work up 2 more rows here just so you can really see this pattern in all of its glory. Two front post. and one top. I also want to show you, we're going to pretend for a minute that I just ran out of yarn, okay? And I'm going to grab a new skein of yarn. All I'm going to do is I'm going to tie on a knot. This yarn is going to break before that knot comes undone. Now you have two options. You can leave longer tails than this. If you do weave in your ends, I do suggest leaving a longer tail. Or because this is such a tight knot and such a textured stitch, you can just cut these tails off, and this little teeny knot is never going to be seen in here. We're going to watch that disappear together. So 2 front post. Here's my knot right here. As you can see, there it is. Just going to blend right on into the blanket. Now, if you don't like that idea, sometimes the knot doesn't hide nicely inside of a stitch or may work its way out, and maybe you don't like it, or maybe you're using a particular color that yarn really, or that knot really shows for some reason, then we'll do it the other way. We'll pretend that we ran out of yarn. So now I'm going to do that same knot, but I'm going to leave longer tails, just because it's a good idea to do when you're weaving in. The more you weave in, the better. And we'll continue to work our stitches. And here's the knot. What I like to do is just grab my working yarn and knot these tails. And what we will do is work our stitch and just pretend like those tails don't exist. Don't worry about them. We'll finish our row here. Again, I've got 2 more stitches, and I'm going to do top post here. And then I want to go into the very top of this chain so that I can keep my border going. Okay. Then what I'll do is I'll take these tails and kind of pull them out of the stitch that I did. Now you can do both strands at once, or you can do one strand at a time. I think is a little better to do, but I'll just show you how to weave in these tails real quick. Also, to thread your needle, the best way to do it is fold this. If you take your tapestry needle and turn it sideways, fold your yarn over it nice and tight, pinch it closed, then turn your needle over and fish that through. It comes through almost every single time. Another little tip for you. Then what we'll do is just find areas, and if you can find the tightest part of your stitches, the better, and that's where the needle comes in. And the more you can fish this tail through the knots of the stitches and in as many different directions as you can, the more secure that tail is going to stay. You can even come down here to the next one. And I can really feel the knot right in here, so I want to try to work the needle through there. And we just don't want to pull too tight, because you don't want to pull your stitches like that. You don't want to change the shape of your stitches by doing this, kind of like closing a sweatshirt hood. We just want to kind of loosely place this through many different ways as you can. And then when I feel like I've got enough of that tail in, I just snip off the edge, and then I can go through to the other one. And this did pull a little tight when I was showing you not to pull that too tight, so ignore that. All right, Now, once again, we will chain 3, turn our work. You can really just start to see that beautiful textured pattern. All right, so I'll finish this next row. I want to go to my first front post. And we'll just finish off this last row of waffles. And as you can see, look at the height on this already. This is what helps make this work up so fast. And I will warn you, this is what we call in the crochet business a yarn eater. What does that mean? It means it uses a lot of yarn because we're twisting and tying and wrapping so many times with these stitches and working on top. Even though it works up quick, it does use a lot of yarn. So be prepared. Again, we've got the final edge of our waffle and our border. So we'll do the edge first. And then we'll come behind here and grab the very top of that stitch and work our double crochet. And how cute is that? So again, as you're working up your rows of your blanket, you're working up this cute little scallop border that goes right along with it. Okay, and then again, the bottom's gonna look just a teeny bit different, but it's just gonna look like that faded off, and the same thing with the top. When you get to the top, that's how the top of the blanket's gonna look. Okay, and the back, again, not the same, but beautiful. Just a different kind of texture, but this is really what we are going for. I know the waffle and the scallops are super trendy right now, between waffle towels and waffle bath rugs and scalloped blankets and scalloped furniture even, I've seen. So this kind of incorporates both of those trends into one beautiful blanket. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you today. Again, I love it when you share your blankets and projects with me. Find me on Instagram, Facebook. Love to see you at Redesigned Rose. Until next time, my friends.